The dispute in this financial assistance bill is essentially about what some of the other parties see as a power grab. Mark, there's a lot of amendments here. Amendment 11 I'm looking at, Amendment 10. We could talk about the technicalities, but I suppose it's more the principle that's at issue.
The principle that's at issue, as some of the other politicians, I think Dolores Kelly was in explaining her view on this earlier on, is that the smaller parties, if you like, the Ulster Unionists, the SDLP and the Alliance, are worried that this is not a simple bit of legislation which will enable fuel poverty payments to be made, but it sets up a mechanism whereby the First and the Deputy First Minister can start directing that payments should be made in relation to other areas. Now, in particular, they're concerned that there's a clause of this that deals with not simply extraordinary circumstances, emergencies, but the use of payments for poverty. Now, DUP and Sinn Féin say, look, this is meant to be about financial assistance. We're meant to be tackling poverty. What could be wrong with tackling poverty? The SDLP in particular, though, are worried that because there's quite a lot of overlap in relation to Margaret Ritchie's portfolio at the Department of Social Development, that suddenly she could start having people come in over her heads, and that this could potentially apply to other ministers of the minority parties in the future, directing, oh, you're not doing well enough on this bit of housing or whatever, and the First and Deputy First Minister could somehow sort of take the credit and also take control. So that's really what the argument's about.
OK, well, they've actually banded together on it. Earlier, the Ulster Unionists, SDLP and the Alliance Party held a joint press conference where they voiced their opposition to parts of this financial assistance bill. It's the legislation which they're debating at the moment, and on the face of it, it's designed to facilitate things such as Mark was saying, the winter fuel payments. But, as we've been elaborating, some see it as this kind of Trojan horse to erode the independence of individual ministers.
The OFM-DFM committee wanted and sought to cooperate with legislation to deal with an emergency situation. That unfortunately is being abused by the two largest parties to turn it into a political power grab.
It's actually quite obscene the way in which the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister are using the circumstances of the fuel poor to bring forward this legislation and to criticise other parties in our genuine and real fears for the bill in its entirety.
Our concern is that this could essentially be a Trojan horse. On the outside, it looks like an attempt for the government to be able to do something which we would all welcome, which is be able to take emergency interventions. However, included within it are provisions that allow OFM-DFM to direct individual ministers in a way that to date they have not been able to do. I think that we need protection against that, so that individual ministerial autonomy is ceded not so that OFM-DFM can direct them, but so that there's greater collectivity. We could accept a loss of autonomy for individual ministers if it was on the basis that they were cooperating jointly. This is about OFM-DFM being able to do things that ministers ought to have control over. I think that that's a backward step, and I think we need to find ways of amending the legislation to prevent that happening.